Your JavaScript programs are certain to perform a number of tests to test certain values to take different action according to the results of those tests. Now here are a few examples. JavaScript can perform tests using the if statement. Now the test itself must be contained within parentheses and should be capable of evaluating to true or to false. If it's true, the statement following the test executes, and normally you would put the statement or a block of statements between curly brackets. Optionally, an else clause may follow the if clause, and this will execute if the test evaluates to false. You may also chain together multiple if, else, if sections, so that when one test fails, the next condition following else, if, will be tested. Now, here's an example where user input is a string that has been entered by the user. And here's another test, and this compares the values of two integers. Now, if the value of I is less than or equal to the value of j, then the condition evaluates to true, and test is true is assigned to the reply variable. Otherwise, the condition evaluates to false, and test is false is assigned to the reply variable and is then displayed, in this case, on the web page. Now, if you need to perform multiple tests, there is a faster way of doing it. You can write case statements instead of multiple if, else if tests. In JavaScript, a case statement begins with the keyword switch, followed by a test value. Then you put a value after one or more case tests. The case value is compared with the test value, that's the one that you specified at the top after switch. And if a match is made, the code following the case value and a colon executes. When you want to exit the case block, you need to use the keyword break. If case tests are not followed by break, sequential case tests will be done one after the other until a break is encountered. And you can also specify a default, and that'll execute if no match is made by any of the case tests that precede it. Now let's test out the sample program, that is the web page that contains this JavaScript, testsandconditions.html. Now this starts by having a function called doTests, and that runs when the button is clicked. All this does is call three separate functions, and it builds up a reply variable string based on the results of each function to display in the web page. So test1 uses a whole load of if and then else if and else clauses to deal with different conditions. In the first condition, user input, that's the text that's entered into the text field. That's tested for blank input if no input is there, and then the string you didn't enter anything is displayed. Then there's an else if clause, and that tests if the string says either hello or hi. This is the or operator here, so it tests either of those conditions. If either is true, then hello to you too is displayed, and finally I don't understand is displayed. I don't understand that in all other conditions. Then function 2 is something rather different. That just tests integer values, two integer variables, if I is less than or equal to, and otherwise display true, otherwise display false. And finally, and this is the one I really want to spend more time on looking over, is test 3. And this is the one that has the case statement. So I'll explain this by looking at the actual web page. So here the default is enter a greeting. Let's see what happens when I just accept that and click the button. It says I don't understand that. The first line is returned by the test1 function. That is the one that uses the if else. The second one is the integer comparison. It's the third line I'm really interested in here, because that's the result of test 3, which uses the case statement. So I don't understand that. That's the default value because it doesn't match any of the other conditions specified in the case tests. Now let's delete this string. You didn't enter anything. Well, that's because user input is a blank string, an empty string, so that matches the first case test, and the reply variable, which is returned from this function, is set to the string you didn't enter anything. Now let's try hello. Hello to you too. The reason that is assigned there is because the case test matches hello, but there is no break after that case, so it trickles down through the code until it meets the first break, and that's here. By the time it's got to there, the reply variable has been set to hello to you too, and that's what's returned. And let me just go back to the blank test. You can see that something really is happening. I'll test hi now. And once again, hello to you too is returned. That's because the case test matches here. Hi is the same as user input. And so hello to you too is once again assigned to reply. And as we saw before, anything else matches the default. And I don't understand that is returned. So that's a simple example of how to do a number of different tests using if-else or case. And you can try this out with your own variables and values to make sure that you consolidate your understanding of how to do this sort of test in JavaScript.